Thank you. Welcome to Story Night. I'm your host, Jodi Eichelberger, and we'll start right off by thanking All Around Cowboy. Hey, if you can get on the mic for just a second, because one of the things that I try to do when organizing these shows and selecting musicians is kind of ask, and this cowboy had kind of a choice of our buttons, you know. Do you want to be play? Do you want to be record? What would you like? And he's like, I think I kind of like fast forward. It's kind of a weird theme, but you connected to it in some way. Do you want to say a little something about like why fast forward?
Yeah, I mean, I use a lot of like delay effect pedals and a lot of things that carry sound forward. And so I think often when it gets like really amped up, it sounds quite a lot like if you're pressing fast forward on an old tape cassette or on like a VHS. It has that kind of like rising tone quality of like the brrr of a fast forward. So it's less about the I guess mental connection and more about the like sonic connection.
Okay, well, I guess I'm not too surprised. I'm kind of relieved, actually, that you don't feel mentally connected to fast forward, because that sounds challenging. Good. Okay, so moving sound forward. All right, I like it. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
And moving forward with our show, of course, I also have to recognize this wonderful person right here, LaVona Andrew, our interpreter for the deaf and the hard of hearing, and later on you will also see Sierra McIver. Last summer, I got a phone call from the mayor of Boise, and she invited Story Night to be the City of Boise's cultural ambassador. And so here we are, that's us. So we do want to thank the City of Boise Arts and History Department for supporting us, in addition to the support that we get as the cultural ambassador. One of the things we're working on right now, which hopefully will be installed very soon while we are still the cultural ambassador, is installation at the Boise airport that will say, "Take Boise with you." And the idea is that people will see a Story Night display to download our podcast and listen to stories from the people of Boise on their flights. But good, I'm glad you're excited about that. The other thing about it, though, that it was their idea, and we kind of tortured ourselves trying to figure out how to do it, is they said, well, wouldn't it be cool if the people in the airport could also tell a story? And we're like, yeah. I'm not available every day to go to the airport. So what we've done is there's an additional QR code that people will see what happens. They're supposed to be able to scan that. It'll take them to a recorder on their phone. Then they have 90 seconds to tell a story about what they're taking from Boise themselves. And then that'll be an additional podcast that then they can listen to as well. And you can too, I suppose. We'll talk about it somewhere. It's not our job to highlight all of the cultural events in Boise, even though we are the cultural ambassador. However, tonight I do want to highlight a couple of people because it's unusual. We have basically two artists in residencies in this area, and both of those artists are here tonight, visiting Boise from Kentucky and Maryland, respectively. The first artist is Lori LaRusso, who is at Sterl's Place in Garden City. Lori, do you just want to wave your hand? Where are you? There she is. All right, that was quick. I knew she wouldn't like that, so we did it fast. And the other artist is from the James Castle House, which is run by the City of Boise, and that's Ellen Mansfield. Ellen, I think, is right over here, yes. And I am told that Ellen is the first deaf artist at the James Castle House that's doing the full 10-week program. I think that's right. Is that right? I don't know who I'm looking at. I'm told that. Okay, Ellen has revealed that is correct. And if you don't know, that's extra special because James Castle, who's home, and he was the artist who created work there, was himself deaf. So it's really awesome that we get to have a deaf artist at a former deaf artist's home. And so that's really exciting. So we really are happy to have that. Also, I want to keep thanking some people. Where are our story subscribers? Raise your hand if you're a story subscriber. Wow, look at them all in one section, because they're all getting to know each other. Oh, there's some over there too. So these are people who are at almost every show for Story Night. They do a monthly subscription, and with that comes tickets to whether it's a late night show or a Slammer of the Year show or this show that you're here at tonight. They also, some of them get to go to studios. That's our workshop program. And it's really been great for us. It developed during the pandemic because it allowed us to keep going, and they're still supporting us, which is really awesome. We have a season sponsor. That's the Chandro Group. Thank you to the Chandro Group. And we also have a show sponsor, which a returning show sponsor, historically a longtime supporter of Story Night, and that is Apple Bath and Plumbing. Did I say that right? That's Bob. Okay, so this season is based off of my old tape recorder deck. We have record, rewind, play, fast forward, stop, and eject. So we've already done these three. Tonight we're on fast forward. And I'm told, we have to turn the tape over because we've already done side A. So tonight we're flipping the tape, everyone. Isn't that exciting? We're halfway through the season. Some of you are way more excited than I think you should be, but. All right, and we have a message from our show sponsor on this tape. And we're really things are advancing at Story. If you've come to the shows before, when I press play, it's my voice on there. I just, Apple Plumbing, But tonight, we have a person on here who actually does commercials. So this is wait for it. This is going to be exciting.
Is a locally owned bathroom remodel and plumbing service company. We can complete a partial or full bathroom remodel as well as resolve any plumbing issues you may have.
There we go. Thank you, Apple Plumbing and Bath. I actually have used Apple Plumbing and Bath myself. I had a trouble with a shower upstairs, and I called a competitor who I think also started with the letter A, because the old days of the Yellow Pages, everyone wanted their name to start with A. And he came and he said, oh yeah, your house, all the parts are from China, and we can't get them in, so I have to replace, and it was just a leaky faucet in the tub. So he said, we're gonna have to replace the entire shower. I was like, really? But I don't know anything about anything, really. Earlier tonight, I had to have Jump help me with this easel back here. So I was like, okay, and so it ended up costing me, $4 figures to stop the leak in the tub. And then the bathroom, so I have 4 bathrooms, which seems a little ridiculous for a New Yorker to say, but I now have 4 bathrooms. So another bathroom went out, and I was like, oh no, I don't know if I can afford this. I called Apple Plumbing, and I said, hey, would you guys come out and look at this? And they came, and they said, well, then the shower wouldn't stop. Like, it just was spinning all the way around and continuing. I was like, ah. So they came out, he looked out, and he said, oh yeah, I can get a part for this. And also, the one that's spinny, I can actually take that one and stick it in your other bathroom. It'll stop the leak in that bathroom. Because that doesn't leak, it's just not stopping. So we'll move that over there, and I'll just get that one part and move it into this other bathroom, and you'll be good. And it was only 3 figures instead of 4. And plus, there was no story about China, so that was good. The other thing I'm told is by our marketing department is that it's very good if people take pictures and tag us in their photos, and this is a very exciting photo opportunity for LaVona and I. So pull out your cameras. There we go. Here we go. Ah. Hashtag StoryStoryBoise on your Insta, TikTok, Facegram. Hashtag, oh, this section is doing really well. I'll just... All right, now some of the things I... Speaking of social media, it's been a dramatic month for Story Story. We found out from some lovely people who started writing us that our website was not working. It had been hijacked. And this is the screen that people were getting, one of them. You can't really see it. I'll read you some of the highlights. So they type in Story Story Boise, and then it would say, your system is heavily damaged by 2 viruses. We detect that your Apple iPhone is 28.1% damaged. That's an oddly specific number. Because of 2 harmful viruses from recent adult sites. Soon, it will damage your phone's SIM card and will corrupt your contacts. Sorry, Mom, you've been corrupted. It's gonna corrupt your contacts, your photos, your data, your applications. If you do not remove the virus now, it will cause severe damage to your phone. That was quite scary. So I used our theme to post on some of our other sites, like, hey, everybody, we're really sorry, our website's been hacked. If you need tickets, go to this Eventbrite directly. And it said, we don't like this story. Our website has been hacked. Fast forward to the part when we have control of our website again. And that post quickly got the most comments, the quickest of any post I think I've ever done. Unfortunately, I'll let you be the judge. Here's some of the comments that immediately started flooding in. Here's from Mike Collins. Mike, are you here tonight? No, I don't think so. Did they log you out of the website? Liam James, how long have you been hacked? Alicia Marshall, I was a victim of the same issue. Mine was hacked a week ago. Contacted Meta official Adam's web tool on Facebook. And then a lovely link that would lead me to another hack. Then Mike Collins wrote again, very anxious for us. You can message me privately for quick retrieve. Jay Clouds, inbox me for quick recovery. Then this person was made for this. Their name is Ethical Recovery. Message me to regain access to your account. Liam James, a second time. Was your email password and number changed? Message me now for fast recovery immediately. That is fast. Someone named Anthony Retrieval. Message me for quick recovery. Papaya Ana Oluwasei. Report this issue to hashtag Sam_cyber03 on Instagram. I'm sure he sort this out for you. Sandra Miles, finally, she's on Instagram. He will help you recover your hacked account, recover hacked business page, trace device location, check if your partner is cheating, recover Instagram, Bitcoin, unlock iCloud, upgrade school result, and more within 20 minutes. He is accurate. A lot of help there, yeah. So fast forward, and fingers crossed, our website is working again. Thank you to Blair for fixing that. So hopefully, I would love to have some of these people come to the show, but very helpful, very helpful. Yeah, so our website came on, and then this afternoon around 12:30 or so, I think Eventbrite crashed. So it was but you're here. Thank you for being here. Structure of the show. How many of you are here for the first time? Never been to Story Story Night before? Hey, that's a good crowd. Welcome, welcome. So the structure of the show, the way it works, is we have 3 featured storytellers that we worked with in advance. And anyone can be a featured storyteller at a future show. All you have to do is write us at storystorynight.org, or you can call us at 208-917-1970. Go to our website and hopefully not see any of those scary messages. And there's a form you can fill out to become a storyteller. So we have 3 of those tonight. And what makes Story Night special and unusual from other storytelling shows is we intermix those stories with a community story slam. So these are people that we have not heard them tell their story. They are sitting among you right now. It might be you, actually. You become inspired, and you just go over to the Story Slam booth over there. I think we have Stacy and Valerie over there tonight. Fill out a little ticket, and they'll put it in. Oh, Valerie gets applause, yes. Oh, no, never mind. Keep working. And then they'll bring a little box up here with tickets in it. I'll draw a ticket, and you'll have 5 minutes to tell your story on the theme Fast Forward. We are a PG-13 show, so keep that in mind as you're sharing your Fast Forward story. Don't let anyone in your story be too forward, in other words. And that's how that works. So, I would like to invite up our featured storytellers that we have for tonight in reverse order. So he agrees to go on a trip with a girl. Fast forward several years and he's still not home. Josh Gaines. All right. And he joined the race to Robie Creek. Fast forward 3 decades, and he's still involved, Mr. Alan Powers. Thank you. But first up to the mic, she's a high schooler who's moving forward fast. Her first time to Story Night, please welcome Lily Simmonds.
Hi, everyone. All right, so I felt the heat penetrate the window as I was driving to Bob Furman, my first ever cross-country race and the biggest cross-country race I'd ever run in. My teammate Robie was sitting next to me in the car, and she was forcing me to take bites of oatmeal because it was early in the morning and my stomach just doesn't agree with me that early. And so we drive up and we see all of the tents for all of these teams throughout the Northwest, and I see these runners, and I know that there are some really fast girls here. And so I get on the line, and the gun goes off, and I go out with the top group of the elite race, not really knowing what I'm doing, and the first lap goes great. I'm feeling good, and the second lap of the race, I start to get a little bit blurry, my vision goes kind of blank, and I hear some voices on the sides, but it's kind of faint, and I go into sort of a runner's coma. And I can see in front of me, but not really. And so I turn the corner, and I see the finish line. It's about 100 meters away, and I'm in so much pain. My legs are barely working, and I see written on my arm as I'm running, defy the pain. So I tell myself, defy the pain, defy the pain, defy the pain, as I take my steps. And as I get about 100 feet away, my knees give out, and I fall. And so I'm sitting there in the dirt as people are passing me, and I kind of lose control of my body, so I try and get up again, and I try and run, and I fall again. And so I'm sitting there on the ground, and I'm thinking of, why am I falling? Why am I falling? This has never happened to me before. I've never been in this much pain before. I've run track since freshman year. I don't know why this is happening. But the only thought on my mind at this moment is to finish. And so I get on all fours, and I crawl across the line. And once I get across, I fall. And I sit there for a bit. My mom comes over, she starts talking to me, and I start talking back to her. But I don't really have any recollection of what I'm saying, except that I got carried to the medical tent and was told that I didn't have any blood in my legs, and I was on oxygen for 40 minutes to calm down my breathing before I could even get up and walk again. And so this was a very traumatic experience. And so fast forward to 1 month later at the state cross-country meet in Pocatello. It was the morning of the meet, and about 5:30 a.m., and I wake up in cold sweats. and my stomach is hurting so bad, and I had not slept this entire night, and so I walk into the bathroom, and I'm sitting there on my knees, hovering over the toilet, and I throw up everything that's left in my body, which is not much, and so I'm sitting there, and I know that my parents are driving from Boise this morning, and I call them and I tell them, hey, I'm throwing up, I don't feel good, I didn't sleep. And so my mom tells me, try and eat what you can, try and eat some bread, try and drink some water. And so I hang up, and with them thinking that they're just gonna come, drive here, and pick me up, and then take me home. And so at that moment, my friends were starting to wake up, they were starting to get ready, and so I had to mask all of what I was feeling, and so I'd walk through the hall, my coach would ask how I was doing, I would say okay, trying to tell myself that I was actually feeling okay, because I knew that my stomach wasn't actually hurting, but it was just my nerves and it was just my mind telling it to hurt. And so we get there and we're driving to the bus, and I'm silent in the back. My teammates, I haven't told them anything, but they know what's going on because we spend 6 days a week together, but at that moment it was best to just leave me alone. And so with my stomach hurting, I walk out of the bus and I take my first step out, and a whole new level of pain hits me. It's 27 degrees in October, it's windy, there's snow on the ground, there's frost on the ground, it's cloudy, it's freezing, and we're all bundled up in like 5 layers of sweatshirts, and we go on our run and we start our warm-up, and it's just horrible. I could barely move my legs, everyone is freezing, and on the way back, we're doing our quicker tempo just to get ready for the race, and I look down at my watch and I realize that I'm going way slower than I feel like I'm going. And so all the self-doubt starts to cloud my brain, and I'm like, oh no, how am I supposed to run 2 times faster than this for 3 miles in just a couple of minutes? And so at that moment, I was realizing that I was going to be in so much pain. And so I got back to the tent and I threw a blanket over me, and I just curled up in a ball and sat there for a while. And my parents finally got there, and I saw my dad, and I just ran to his arms and just started sobbing. It was one of the worst feelings I had ever had, and I couldn't make it go away, and I didn't know why. And so in that moment, I was thinking about my team. I had joined the team in freshman year when I was having a really difficult time socially, and so they brought me out of that, and I was able to really regain all of the fitness that I had lost and everything, and they've become a family to me. We share everything on our runs. We run with each other almost every day, and we just have such a special bond that has brought me here and allowed me to do what I've been able to do. And so I was thinking about that, and it was time to go to the start line, but my dad was telling the alternate that she needs to get ready because Lily's probably not gonna run. And I still hadn't made up my mind. I knew I wanted to run, but I was in so much pain that I didn't know if it was possible. And so I walk up to the line, and I'm doing some strides as best I can. And this time, I'm thinking about myself. What would I think if I didn't end up running? And the first thing that came to my mind was, I just got a state sweatshirt this morning, and if I didn't run, I wouldn't be able to wear the state sweatshirt because I didn't earn it. And that's a big thing because those sweatshirts are really soft. And so, but I was also thinking about how much I would regret if I didn't run. I was doing it for my team, but also for myself, and I knew in myself that we didn't have a very good chance of beating Boise High that I've won the past 5 years if I didn't run. And basically in cross country, the top 7 runners on the team race, and the top 5 score, and first place gets 1 point, second place gets 2 points, and so on, and the lowest scoring team wins. And so if I ran, I knew that we had a better chance of doing well. And so I was still thinking about it, and I go into my huddle, and I have my arms around the 2 seniors on my team, the 2 seniors that I've been with since freshman year, and I see their faces, and they're all jumping up and down, and I can barely bend my knees because my stomach is rattling inside of me. And I look at all of them, and at that moment, there's just no doubt in my mind that I have to run. Even though I'm in so much pain, it is something that I have to do for them and for my team, but also for myself. And so I get onto the starting line, and we rip off all of our warm-ups, and we're standing there freezing in our shorts and a tank top, and I'm standing there, and the gun goes off, and I kind of just lose control. And my first mile is a little bit conservative because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't gonna burn out or anything. But as I hit the first mile mark, I start to feel my legs go numb. And my mind immediately goes back to Bob Furman and me falling. But instead of focusing on that, I channeled my energy into keep going, don't think about that. And as I started to do that, my legs went numb, but in a good way this time. The cold was causing them to feel no pain, and so it was perfect because I took all of the hunger that I had from all my previous races, from falling, from all of the hardships that I had faced this season, and I started to go faster. And so I would find a girl in a red jersey ahead of me, Boise High, and I would run up to them, I would stick with them as long as I could, and then I would see when they were hurting. And I knew that I was hurting too, but they were hurting more. And so then I would just pass them, and I would pass them. And I just kept doing the same thing over and over again. And when I hit the second mile mark, my coach was on the sidelines, and he pointed up to a group ahead and said, "They're top 20, you're doing great." And so in this moment, I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that I could get top 20 in the state. And so I started going faster, and I kept passing more people, and I came along the final curve, and on the way back, I see my teammate, Robie, running back towards the finish line in first place. And so I was like, oh my goodness, if she can get first place, then our team can get first place. And so I went harder, and I turned the final corner to the finish line, and I see it right there, and I just relax. That is the best thing about running cross country, is seeing the finish line, because you get to see everything that is brought up to this moment. And especially at state, we had worked so hard this entire season. And so I finished, and this time I had no pain, and I was just proud of myself that I pushed through and was able to finish. And so all of our teammates started trickling in, and we were just kind of standing there, not really know what to do. And our coach runs over to us and yells, "You guys just won the state championship for the first time in Timberline's history." And it was just kind of it was a surreal moment for all of us, and we were just proud of ourselves and our team that we were able to do it, because we were against the odds in this moment. And so fast forward just a couple of weeks, I had one more race. It was my regional race, and it was at the same course as the one that I fell at Bob Furman. And instead of thinking about running fast and PRing and doing well, I was just thinking about wanting to finish. I had already proven to myself that I could do everything I can, and that I have done it, and that I persevered. And so I ran this race, and I finished, and it wasn't the best time, but that's not what mattered. And to me, moving forward fast is not what running is all about, but it's about keeping a healthy mind and keeping a healthy body. And that's why I think I led my team to victory this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. I might have surprised her. I don't think she knew she was the first storyteller tonight. It was like a gun going off. My brother-in-law says that pain is just fear leaving your body. You can take that with you if you like. To the Boise High, we sing this song. Yeah, I'm a former Boise Brave. We won 5 times in a row. Not while I was there. So not all of our stories are going to be about running necessarily, but little peek behind the curtain. We had another storyteller tonight who actually, not Pocatello, he let me know, I can't make it to the show, I'm in North Dakota. So we had to quickly retool, and so I thought, fast forward, I need to replace this storyteller. So I put out a bunch of calls and redid some research, and one of the things I saw was an old news broadcast, must have been KIVI, Channel 6, from a while ago, and there was this really fun, dynamic individual on the side of a mountain, looking real sweaty, and talking about, he wasn't moving forward very fast during that interview, but he was talking about trying to do so. We didn't get it set up to be a featured storyteller tonight, but he was still able to come and be a slammer, sort of an introductory story. So please welcome Kenneth Sengendo. I think I might have messed up the last name because I didn't bring my notes up with me. Kenneth, thanks for being here tonight. He's going to come share a story. Lily's story reminded me of, as a kid, I used to get heat stroke a lot. And our church July 4th picnic, sorry, Kenneth, I suddenly thought of this amazing story I have to share with these people. We'd play volleyball at the July 4th picnic, and I would have heat stroke about every 14 points. So our team would be about to win, I would get dizzy, almost pass out, run into the house, throw up, and make it back to start the next game. And I did that 4 times, that July 4th, I guess because of the number 4. Anyway, let's hear what Kenneth has to say.
Thank you so much, Jodi. Good evening, everybody. I come from Uganda. This is my second year in Boise, Idaho, a city which I've come to love a lot. I came to Boise after 14 years of being in Japan, and so I came here to, a change of environment, and surely it was a change of environment. So fast forward, I tried to, get in touch with events in town. I tried to connect with the locals in the place. So as a work colleague of mine introduces me further, let's do again some marathon running. And I'm like, yes, this is something which I've always been doing. I didn't win a race like Madame Simmonds here, but I did some running. So I tried to continue starting my training. So we registered for Robie Creek. And Robie Creek, which is, should I say, a rite of passage for maybe many Idahoans. So I'm like, okay, let's get to it. And I start on my race. And as we go on running, I realized that, okay, I'm not as good as I used to be. Maybe age is catching up to me. So my friend tells me that, let's do 100 runs up and down a hill. I'm like, oh, that is too much, To make it through Robie Creek, you have to do it, he told me. So I'm like, 100 times is quite a lot. But I think I can do it. I've done marathons before. So fast forward, Robie Creek comes, and I ran the first mile. And I asked the people who we were running with, like, hey, how far until you reach the top? I'm not kidding you. Everyone was saying, half a mile. Right from the 3-mile mark until the point, it was always half a mile. And after I realized I couldn't get a straight answer from anyone, I chose to get some of the fun, of Robie Creek. Talk to the friends around me who are running with me, and also look at the placards which are on the way as you're going up the hill. Some of them were really funny, and they kept me going. And one of them, actually, I'm not kidding you, do not park here. You'll get a ticket. So I'm like, okay, that's a nice one. And then as I'm running up, towards the top, I see this one. And look for a cute posterior and run after it. And I'm like, what? I'm not kidding you. I was running next to this 70-year-old man who was, we were jogging with him, trying to giving me courage. And he looked at the lady who was running past us and says, no, be sure I'm not looking at you. So we ran up the hill, and as we are reaching the summit, and the man tells me that, I'll see you at the finish line. And I'm like, he's 70 years old and he's seeing me at the finish line? What does he mean? He was running ahead of me. And so I realized that, I was supposed to do 100 laps, up and down a hill before I go for Robie Creek. So, when we reached the summit and going down, the funniest part of it all was the end is near. I don't know if anyone saw that person who was holding, in a messianic robe, tunic. The end is near. And that was, I think, the climax of my race. Fast forward, I look forward to, at least beating my 2.5 hours in Robie Creek. Thank you so much for listening to me.
I came home to visit one year. My sister was like, "Hey, Jodi, run this race with me. It's a Christmas race that starts at like Boise High and goes up into the foothills and comes down." And I ran along the bay in New York all the time, so I was like, "Sure, I'm in shape to do this." We start running up the hill, and then I am huffing and puffing, and then a guy dressed in a Santa Claus wearing a chimney goes past me. I realized, no, I mean, hopefully it's the altitude, but I'm gonna blame it on that. So this is an even more natural segue than normal, because next up we have a person who is very connected to the race to Robie Creek. I think we introduced him saying he was involved with the race 30-some years ago. Fast forward, he's still involved today. Please welcome Alan Powers.
Well, that was quite an intro. I want to start out by just saying I am definitely a card-carrying member of the Rocky Canyon Sailtoads. And I'm here tonight to follow up on that piece of the story by telling you my 36-year love story with the race to Robie Creek. That love story didn't begin immediately when I got to Boise in 1983. I grew up in New Jersey, far from Idaho. I went to high school there, finished, and went to college, stints at the U.S. Naval Academy, Cornell University, and I ended up with a degree in natural resources that I brought out west, first to Colorado, and then for a stint in Arizona, and landed in Boise in 1983. And I was never really a big runner. I was always a jogger, I would say, for fitness. I had never actually run an organized race. But it wasn't long after I got to Boise that I started hearing about this cult-like, quirky little race that was being run up in the foothills here. Not so little, it was a half marathon up over the mountain. It climbed 8 miles and then down 5 miles. And like I say, I was not necessarily into organized races, and so I did, over those early years after '83, get involved with a few of the 5Ks and 10Ks around town. Many of you may know the Harvest Classic in Nampa and the Barber to Boise run and those kinds of things. Well, fast forward to 1988, and I'd been in Boise about 5 years, and I'm sitting in a classroom in BSU taking some graduate classes in geology. I'd been working here since I came out with the Bureau of Reclamation in Water Resources, and on the side, I began a graduate program there. And it was a Tuesday night, and one of the classmates in that class was an Italian woman named Patrizia. And we started chatting a bit about running, and she was very into cycling and running. And she mentioned to me that she was a member of the Rocky Canyon Sailtoads. And I went, whoa. I've heard of them. Who are they? I've heard about their race. She said, well, we meet every Tuesday night, and this happened to be a Tuesday, and after class, I'm headed off to a Sailtoad meeting just up the street. At that time, they were meeting at the Flicks Theater. There was an upstairs room that they had been using. And she says, why don't you come along? Have you heard of the Race to Robie Creek? I said, well, I've heard of it, yeah, and I'm very interested. So I went along. We walked up the street to the Flicks and went into the upstairs room, and there was a group of very eclectic, seemingly passionate people there discussing this next year's race in April. And I was a bit of a fly on the wall at that first meeting because I'm just sort of a guest. And I learned a lot of things that first night. I learned that it began in 1975 when founder of the race, John Robertson, a quirky, eccentric gentleman himself, as those that know him would agree, who thought it would be really cool with he and his foothill runners at the time, they ran up in the foothills and up in Rocky Canyon quite a bit, to run over the mountain and do a half marathon. And so he gathered about 24 of his friends, running friends, and they set off in August, of all times, to run an evening run from Fort Boise up what was the old stagecoach road to Idaho City. If those of you know it, up Rocky Canyon, up over Adalpe Summit, and down into Robie Creek Park at Lucky Peak. And they accomplished that race that first year, and they called it the Idaho Summer Road Racing Championships. And everyone had a good time. They were very post-Vietnam in their sense that they did not want to start a race with a gun. And they vowed to perhaps continue this thing in the future. Well, fast forward about 3 years, there was a hiatus until about 1979 when John struck up the band again, so to speak, and he put out a feeler again to resurrect this race, this time as the Race to Robie Creek. And it was going to be the half marathon over the mountain, and he was advertising and getting as many runners as he could. I believe that second year there in 1979, there were 101 participants. And the race started to take on the kind of a legendary accolade that it has today. It was first called that year the Race to Robie Creek to start with, but it was also first labeled the toughest race in the Northwest. Little tongue-in-cheek, because there are definitely some tough races, but I say we now, they then thought that that was very appropriate to claim that banner. Well, I learned some other things that night. I actually learned what a sailtoad was, which was a question that always comes up. And the history of those early foothill runners running up through Rocky Canyon was that there were a lot of large toads that would come out of Cottonwood Creek, and they'd get run over and flattened by vehicles. And they would lay there and bake in the sun in the summer. And those foothill runners would come by and they'd see them, and you could pick them up and you could throw them like a frisbee. And hence the name Sailtoad. Well, John thought this was great, and he just named his running group the Rocky Canyon Sailtoads. And that was that. I also learned that first night that the group were very much involved in the late 70s with a sort of a post-Vietnam protest awareness, and they did not want to start, as I say, any race with a gun. And so that second race in 1979 began the history of that race being started with anything but a gun, and that meant developing a unique start with a unique theme, perhaps, and do something, anything other than shooting off a gun to say ready, set, go. And that second year in 79, when they first instituted that, they actually started the race. Someone made a discus, a round discus, out of some of those flattened sail toads. And they gummed it together with flour, hardened it off, and that discus was thrown to mark the start of that race that second year. So the idea of themes was born, the idea of crazy starts was born. And I also learned that night what it takes to be a sail toad. I've been asked that question many times since then. How do you become a sail toad? And I always reflect back to that first night when Patrizia took me down there. I said, well, you pretty much just go to a meeting on a Tuesday night. You sit there like a fly on the wall. You listen. You eventually pick up some duties and more responsibilities. And the key thing is that you keep showing up. From January to April every year, planning the race for April. It's always the third Saturday in April. And eventually you evolve into being a Rocky Canyon sail toad more than applying to be one or being knighted to be one. So fast forward then again to 2001. Actually, let me back up if that's allowed. I will back up first before I fast forward to then and say that I ran my very first race that year, that 1988 visit to the Flicks, and I learned that the first two challenges about running the race to Robie Creek were finishing the race, number one. But the second biggest challenge was surviving the after-race party at the finish. Because these were people who love to have fun. They love to run and they love to have fun. And a big part of that race as it evolved over the years, even those early years, was putting on the best race for the participants and then also donating as much to charity as we could. We were all volunteers. We have many, many dozens of sponsors over the years, hundreds and hundreds of volunteers, and the goal is to try to give as much to local charities, the charities that really need it. The big charities have their sources. We wanted to spread that money around the valley and even have a girls running team in Morocco through one of our sail toad Jack Caper efforts. So now fast forward to 2001. For me and my love affair, since that first race, which I ran in 1988, here's the shirt. And if it looks like this shirt is a little tight, that's because it's shrunk. It's not because I got any bigger. That very first race introduced me to this concept of the themes and the crazy starts. Those that can read it, that theme in '88 was "She's a Screamer." And it was built around the theme of rock and roll, and the start, we got beyond the Disc of Frogs, but we actually had one of the early sail toad women named Darla was dressed up in rock and roll costume, and she slid down a zip line all across the starting line of the runners with a guitar in her hand in stage pose. And when she hit bottom, that was the start of the race. I did seven more runs since that '88 run in my love affair with Robie. I was privileged getting into that half marathon thing to at least in my younger years, developed some PRs, personal records that all runners try to seek. And then there was another point where I realized I was done with PRs. And again, it wasn't because of my weight or my age. It was the hill was getting higher. I ran my last Robie in 2013 when I turned 60, and I had run one with my middle daughter back in 2000. So I had some very wonderful experiences with the run itself. But my real love affair, if I can get back to that, was working with this wonderful group, this sail-toad family that I had joined, and putting on a race that had pageantry, it had community involvement. The themes and the crazy starts were a way for us to be super creative and be very different than any other run or race that was being held in town or almost anywhere. It was the toughest race in the Northwest, probably for all the participants, but for us it was the funnest race in the Northwest. So around 2001, we hit a point where the race had gotten so popular and so much of a community rite of spring. One of our other early sail-toads, Phil McLean, once said it was like the swallows coming back to Capistrano. Every spring they would just show up and the race grew and grew. And we started approaching 3,000 participants that were signing up. Now, when we say we put on a good party at the end, we also bus in about 1,000 spectators and family members to come in and meet their runners at the finish, which is a very remote park over by Lucky Peak. And when we started getting those kind of numbers, it started getting logistically very complicated over there. So we had to start limiting the numbers. This is about the same time that we went online with our registration. So those things combined started making a third big challenge for the race to Robie Creek. You know, the first, again, as I mentioned, was surviving the race, the run. The second was surviving the party. The third now was even getting registered, because at high noon on President's Day in February every year, people would be posed like this at their computers waiting for high noon, which is when the registration always kicked off, and try to get in. And after several years of massaging our online process, it got pretty smooth, and people knew that if you weren't right there, the record filling up was 13 minutes for 2,500 entries. So it filled up fast, and then people were left out going, didn't get in. So that popularity was something that really fed my love affair. A love affair that turned into almost a marriage as the years went on, with my interest in how much we got the community involved and how much I got my own family involved. I was able to get my 4 children, my son Michael, my oldest daughter Alicia, sitting in the front row here, my middle daughter Andrea, and my youngest daughter Anna, all involved at various stages through the years, being either junior sail-toads or Alicia now, who is a full-fledged card-carrying member of the Rocky Canyon Sail-Toads. So that was special to me. But another special personal piece was my mom and dad were still back in New Jersey. And although they visited Idaho off and on, my mom was always interested. She was the most vicarious supporter of the race to Robie Creek in the country, I think, 3,000 miles away, and would ask me every spring, what's going on with that race of yours? What's the theme this year? You know, and every once in a while I'd be able to send an extra volunteer shirt to her, and she was just regular about asking me what was going on. And she didn't like being a little conservative, well, being a lot conservative, let me put it that way. She wasn't always happy with some of the themes we had, like one year we had our big-ass Easter egg hunt, and she went, oh, I don't know if I like that one. Or we had a nod to the Grateful Dead one year, which was what a long, strange trip it'll be. And she thought, you're not promoting drugs, are you? And, we had a limousine pull up one time where a gentleman got out in a black suit and a briefcase, and he was the tax man, and we hung him in effigy. That was the tax man cometh. And then, with my Catholic upbringing, my mom's Catholic upbringing, she didn't like the year we did Our Lady of Perpetual Pain with a giant stained glass window on the shirt. But she was, as I say, a big vicarious supporter, and it was wonderful to get my family involved. That was also a period when the community got more and more involved, and we had themes like Robie or not Robie, that is the question. And the Shakespeare Theater got involved with us in putting that one on. Plunderin' for Booty, Sailtoad Looks at 34, where we combined pirate theme with Jimmy Buffett music. And many of our themes involved music over the years. Rock and roll, we had Wild Thing. We had Cajun music with Zydeco Sailtoad. The blues one year, where the theme was She's a Mountain of Trouble. And we had the Blues Brothers Review, if any of you have seen that play at the Finish that year. But we especially evolved into having community organizations involved because many of our themes got into the sort of cultural celebration mode. Early in that era, in the late 90s, we worked with the Native American Coalition to put on a theme celebrating the Native American culture. It was called, I Will Run No More Forever, the famous saying of Chief Joseph. And we had a Scottish theme one year. Again, the Scottish community and bagpipes and kilt wearers involved. The title of that theme was Run Your Kilt Off. And the Basques. We had always done our packet pickup at the Bass Center, and we got them actively involved with the running of the toads and celebrating their culture. Fast forward then, again, to 2023, last year. My love affair, my marriage, my family involvement, the community involvement had really grown. And in 2023, my dad passed away in New Jersey. And that was only the second time that I missed the race to Robie Creek in April, because I was back there for his memorial. And my mom announced that she wanted to finally come out to Boise after caring for him all these past years, health-wise, and meet 2 of her 4 grandchildren that she had never met. But she also declared, but I want to come in April when you do that Race to Robie Creek thing. She wanted to experience that. So this year's theme, where we're working with the Latino community on our theme of El Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, and our Robie theme for that is Run to Remember. And so it's a perfect theme for my family to celebrate my dad's passing, for my Sailtoad family to celebrate the passing of our founder, John Robertson. The original founder passed away last year also, as well as several of our other Sailtoad friends. And the runners will be encouraged to run to remember their ancestors. So it couldn't be a more perfect fast-forward year and theme for that, for my family, for me personally, for our Sailtoad family. And the bottom line is that with my mom coming out, she's going to get to see the race. I'm even building her a little do-it-yourself beach-wheeled buggy to push her around at the start and at the finish, hopefully. And the extra bonus that I get is that I'm finally going to be able to invite my mom to become an honorary card-carrying member of the Rocky Canyon Sailtoads.
And I think we have some members of the Sail Toads here tonight, don't we? Why don't all the committee members stand up that are here? We know one is right here. We got some other members over there. Great. And back in the back. Awesome. Fun. And what a beautiful image that is of the Sail Toads flying through the summer sky. All right, we have another message from a sponsor here on our tape recorder. Also, just to let you know, I don't write these, okay? So.
There are many moments in our lives we wish we could fast forward so we know the outcomes of our choices in advance. So we aren't wondering what would have happened if we had decided to take a different path in our lives. Personally, I've been known to fast forward to the end of a book while in the first 100 to 150 pages. This fun fact is appalling to many people.
Yeah, it's appalling to me. I'm going to fast forward through that part.
I am sure you wish you could fast forward to 3 health plan renewals.
I do wish I could fast forward, actually. Could we fast forward? Oh.
Right now, you pay more for your health insurance every year and get a little less in health plan benefits. The worst is when you pass those cost increases onto your employees. While we don't have a crystal ball at the Chandler Group that can provide you with the perfect picture of your health plan costs 3 years from now, we do build high-performance health plans using data to drive sustainability with your medical benefits.
Thank you. Okay, the Chandra Group.
These provide valuable insight into your pharmacy benefits and healthcare utilization. Your team will experience lower costs than ever with a $0 deductible using direct-to-provider contracts. The data from our strategies allows us to tailor programs that fit your team's specific needs. The Chandra Group acts as your consultant and guide through the entire plan year. You can rest easy that your employees are well taken care of, with access to the best physicians in the Valley and a care navigator that helps to demystify our clouded healthcare system. Want to optimize your health plan for the future today? Lindsay at the Chandra Group is ready to help. Just a note, don't fast forward Jodi's book. It's a collection of essays, so the ending is not an ending, just a beautiful perspective on life best saved for last.
Ooh, mwah. Okay. Just gotta check in on Sierra here. Somehow you're always the lucky one. Yeah, she got to do a rap song earlier this season. That was very nice of Lindsay to mention the book. Actually, so I think I figured out about 15 years ago, I started a podcast that was about personal narratives. It was called The Acorn People. And then I joined a writing group that was called The Morning After in New York. We met near Columbia College. And fast forward 15 years, the book was finally published, and it is available right over here, along with some T-shirts and some cross-country award sweatshirts, maybe? No. Just the T-shirts, Story Night T-shirts, audience of one book. I can go over and sign some if anyone likes to have one signed. We're going to take about a 10-minute break. You can visit the restroom, get some drinks at the bar back there, and we'll be back for more stories in about 10 minutes. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna start our second act actually with a featured song from All Around Cowboy. And I would also encourage you, Sarah is going to be signing the song, and it's really lovely to see how words are interpreted into the ASL, so that is fun to watch. So please welcome back for a special feature song, All Around Cowboy, Into the Flooded World.
digging up turnips, and I don't know because I'm asleep at the bottom of the world is turning and slipping away. There's a beautiful bird in the rafters, hanging upside down. But I only woke up after he'd sung his last song for the night. Tonight I will venture out into the flooded world. Tonight I will slip out into the flooded world and wait up for the dawn. There's a writhing thing in the kitchen sink. I don't know how it got there. There's a red rubber ball in the back of my mind. I don't know how it got there. I'm knocking down the door in the city where the paint is like glass and the rain never dries. Tonight I will venture out into the flooded world. Tonight I will slip into the flooded world and wait up for the dawn. And somewhere Jack is singing a folk song in a New York bar, spitting cherry pits off the stage. And somewhere Bill is in a car, cruising northeast 33rd, looking for a fix. And somewhere all the time something is spilling, something unravels, something shatters, something rips, just as I will venture out into the flooded world, as I will slip out into the flooded world and wait up
Thank you, all around Cowboy. It's kind of like we all were on a big, vigorous race and we crossed the finish line and just fell flat on our backs and entered another dimension. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, let's, for the first time tonight, let's bring up that suitcase for the slammer to start a story here. We have 5 minutes on the theme, fast forward. I spotted a Story Night shirt in the audience right there. Hey there, this is one of our board members, Courtney. Oh, she gets lights. She also organizes the Story Studios if you'd like to have a workshop somewhere. Okay, wow, we have lots of tickets. All right, let's go for this one right here. Please welcome Dwayne Evans. Oh. The stage is excited to welcome Dwayne. Oh. He's taken his jacket off. I'm starting to wonder if Dwayne put his own name in. Oh dear. He was.
What's here is right.
Oh.
And what's not me, Dwayne?
I guess I didn't mention earlier that we do appreciate if you put your own name in. Dwayne, are you good with us? Are you ready to share a story about Fast Forward?
You're all welcome to boo me off the stage. Okay?
All right. You don't have to take the whole 5 minutes either. You can
No,
use
I will
this.
not.
You can use the stairs right there if you like.
Oh, thank you.
Here he comes. All right. But he did cheer real loud.
Ooh, man, it's bright out there. Okay, let's see. Fast forward. Fast forward is kids, right? So I'll talk about kids. I have 2 boys, and the first kid was a little bit late in coming. It was a difficult delivery. We worked really hard. Did you hear that? We worked really hard. You know, the classic part of it was, I remember we did a hike up in British Columbia and up to a lake, and my wife goes, you know, when we get to the really hard part, I want you to remind me how difficult the last bit was, and just remind me how it was so worth it. And so I'm going, okay, you know, so she's got her foot in my stomach and she's pushing and stuff, and I'm kind of going, okay, here we go. And I'm going, okay, this is really, really tough. I mean, it was a long, long, long labor, and I'm going, babe, remember when we were hiking in Canada and you said to remind you that it was going to be so worth it? And she goes, this is nothing like that. Bam! I'm going, oh my God. And that was my introduction into being a parent. And so the first child came, and everybody's going, oh, he's beautiful, he looks like you, and I'm kind of like, you know. And then we had round 2, you know, and second son. It took us a while. We first of all, we thought we were never going to have kids, and it was like one and done. And then it was like, you know, we got 2 hands, there's 2 kids, and we don't want our kid to grow up alone. So we have second child, and my wife was kind of going, I really have bad feelings about this, you know. And it's like, okay, so we go to the hospital, and we're there, and she's going, okay, I wanted to have a natural childbirth the first time, and then I really wanted the drugs, so as soon as we get there, I'm gonna get the drugs. So we get there, and it was like, well, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to wait for the doctor. She's going, I want the drugs, I want the drugs. And I was like, the doctor gets there, it's too late, just push. And so the second child was born, and it was actually a much better delivery. And I made the mistake of saying, I'm a runner, we'll all appreciate this. And I looked at the clock, and I'm going, holy crap, you set a PR by 12 hours. It was a 12-hour PR. Not. Funny, not appreciated. So, fast forward, the kids kind of grow up along their paths, and everybody said, one looks like you, and the other one acts like you. And it was very, very true. And so it gets time for choosing which schools they're going to go to in college. And so the first one, I go through it, and he's the one that looks like me. And we lay it all out, and we say, okay, let's set up a spreadsheet and a matrix, and we'll weight it, and we'll decide what's the best school for you to go to. And we go through all this, and it actually worked out fairly well, and he ended up going to the school. It ended up being a perfect school for him. And then the second child comes, and I'm going, oh, great. Well, I got this down. And so I'm going through this, and I said, well, with your older brother, we went through this, and this is how we did it, and da-da-da. And he kind of sits there, and finally goes, Dad, are you done? And I'm going, yeah, I guess so. You're just forgetting one thing. It's my life. So, fast forward, both kids are married now. They have significant others, actually, that they're married to, which is a good thing. And I'm a proud grandfather, so.
Thank you, Dwayne. Dwayne, if you would go over to the Slammer booth or see Valerie over here to sign our release form, or sign someone else's name if you want, I guess. Dwayne, if your wife wants drugs, I hear she can just go to the after party at the race to Robie Creek. Actually, who else is running the Slammer booth? Could we have another hand? Can we grab the suitcase and let's do another one right now? Oh, Valerie's doing all the work herself. They left. Well, fast forward to right now when we needed them. Yeah, doing everything all at once. Yeah, I don't know. It's spontaneous. That's one of our words. That story starting is spontaneous. All right, let's go with this one right here. And it looks like we're gonna have, this is a guy who's returning to our stage. It's Eric J. All right, Eric, you're a veteran. You know how this works. Fast forward.
I'm in the middle of thermodynamics class that I'm teaching at Boise State, and my phone rings for the third time. It's my wife, and it's pretty annoying because I'm teaching thermo. And I answer because it's the third time, and she says that our son has broken his arm, and he's being taken to the emergency room, and can I meet him there? So I hop on my bike, and I'm pedaling up over to St. Joe's and Luke's, whatever, the hospital. And I meet him there, and we get x-rays, and I'm thinking, this is probably a net good thing. He's experienced no adversity in his life so far. And, he needs a little something to overcome. But I'm also thinking that this is, pretty annoying. I've got, an interview for department chair tomorrow. I've got this proposal that I need to submit to fund my graduate students. And I don't have time for this right now. So we get the x-ray, and his humerus is broken in half. And the ER doc says he definitely needs surgery. And where it is they're probably going to have to cut through some tendons, and there's going to be long-term damage. And I'm thinking, not that much adversity. And so they're putting in his IV to get him prepped for surgery, and I've got one hand on his foot. I'm kind of rubbing the blanket over his foot to try to calm him down. And with my other hand, I'm like fumbling for my wallet. The insurance lady needs to see if we've got health insurance, and she's like, this number doesn't work. And I'm like, we got new numbers from over the summer. You just put the new number in, and we do have health insurance. You're gonna get paid. And I'm going back and forth, and it's pretty stressful. And the next time I turn back to her, it's not just her. There's 4 faces looking at me, and they look really concerned. And they say, does this happen a lot? And I said, what? And the doctor says, you fell really hard. And my lizard brain says, yeah, this is fine. I probably passed out, didn't I? The doctor asks, are you okay? And I said, well, I feel like I bumped my head a little bit, but inside I'm pretty worried because when I was a kid, I had epilepsy, and blacking out happened a lot. And I'm really worried that Oliver is going to realize that, in this moment that I'm supposed to be taking care of him, I can't. And I'm worried that all of my students and the faculty that depend upon me, I'm not going to be there for, because fundamentally, my brain is unreliable. I'm not dependable. So I'm scared. And I tell the doctors, I'm probably fine, but we should probably admit me just in case. Because I don't know if this is a brain thing, if it's the epilepsy, or if there's something else going on, and they don't either. And when they put in my IV to do my blood work, I pass out again. So they say it's vasovagal syncope, and this is good news. I don't have a brain tumor, and it's probably not the epilepsy coming back. And Oliver is across the hall in his emergency room, and he says, Dad, the hospital's where we're supposed to go get fixed, not where we're supposed to get injured. And he's cracking up, so that they take him down to surgery, and shortly after that, I'm discharged. My wife shows up, and she meets me down in the waiting room for surgery, and I get on my computer, and I need to start triaging all of the balls that I'm now dropping because I'm in the hospital. And I'm shooting an email to cover seminar. I'm shooting another email to teach my class, and my colleagues are stepping up to the plate. They're covering all of these bases. And Megan's phone pings, and it says, Oliver has gone in for surgery. His procedure has started. And I get back to my emails, and I'm trying to cover all of my bases. And Megan's phone pings again, and she says, oh no, something's wrong. And my heart sinks. And I look over to see what's wrong, and she can't fit a word in her crossword puzzle. Timing with the phone. And shortly after that, the surgeon comes out, and he says that the surgery went really easily, and that they didn't have to cut where he was expecting to cut, and everything should be fine. And I'm so relieved. And I think about the help that he provided in that moment, and how all of my department came to my back to fill in for class and to fill in for seminar, and how they moved the department chair interview just so that I would be able to participate, and think about how I wasn't doing all of this stuff all alone, and feeling everybody be there for me felt a lot like love. Thanks.
Gosh. I'm learning so much about parenting tonight. All right, we're gonna move to our last featured storyteller. He was a slammer at late night, and that is kind of the progression that often happens. We have a slammer, like these people who are entering their tickets, and then they say, hey, I'm interested in being a featured, which we love to see. So please welcome Josh Gaines.
All right. Jodi said I can't take the mic out and pretend to be a late night comic, so I'm going to do my best. But my story has nothing to do with running, although Last week, I was talking about Robie with my wife. I was like, someday, I'd like to do Robie. And she's like, okay. There's actually a bunch of half marathons going on right now. I was like, no, I'm good. That one's got like, she's like, no. We'll get you one that's flat. I'm like, honey, I'm good. She's like, I signed you up for a half marathon at Coeur d'Alene in a couple of months. I'm like, okay. Now, that's going to track with the rest of this story, so just stay with me. So, my entire story is basically pushing the limits of the strategy of fake it till you make it. My whole life. So, it's the early 2000s. I'm at a bar. I'm in college, with my college roommates. And I'm eternally grateful that Tinder did not exist back then. Because if I had a profile, this lady would have never swiped right. Like, would not have happened. But this was the dinosaur time. So I'm sitting in a bar, I'm having some beers, and I see this beautiful blonde, across the bar. I'm with, my dumb college roommate friends. I'm also dumb, so I can say that. I'm like, I'm gonna go talk to this woman. I have a class with her, I'm in elementary education. The odds are very much in your favor if you're in elementary ed. You're talking 100 women, 2 dudes. I'm like, I know this one. I'm going over. So I go over. I say hello. Fast forward. One thing leads to another. I'm moving in with this woman, and life is great. Couldn't ask for anything else. And she asked me a very simple question one day. She's sitting on the couch in her apartment, which I've just moved into, because she's like an 11. I'm like a 6.5 on a good day. So yeah, I moved in with her. Absolutely I did. And she's like, do you like travel? It's funny how your life can turn on a dime when you're thinking of a good lie. I do not care for travel, or I didn't at the time. Now, they say you can't change people, but you can influence people. Now, a little about me. I grew up on a farm, like in the middle of nowhere, Eastern Washington. The Windows background on like Windows 7. That was my life. That was all of it. I was the first kid picked up on the bus, and I was the last kid dropped off because my bus stop was 45 minutes from my town of 2,000. I got nervous going to get school clothes for, when, school clothes shopping was to come. We went on one vacation to Hawaii. My dad, a farmer, probably not surprising you, Eastern Washington, bailed after the first 2 days, abandoning my mother and me and my brother in Hawaii to figure out how to get ourselves back because he was too nervous to be away from the farm. So needless to say, yeah, I lied to that 11 and said I love travel. Now, I'm like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? We're gonna go like a weekend vacation on a lake or something. Well, shall we fast forward? Fast forward 15 years, I'm in West Africa, driving past a paramilitary checkpoint, flaming dumpster piles, with a doctor whom I've bribed to save my family's life. Now, let's go back to where I was. I'm on a couch and I'm like, yeah, I like travel. And it started easy, right? We were teachers, right? She's like, we can get an internship in New Zealand. I'm like, all right. They have hobbits there. I mean, that'll be fun, right? We go, we do the thing. It's great. If you've ever been to New Zealand, Kiwis are lovely. We lived in a hostel together for like 4 months. You ever share a hostel with someone? You're like, if I can live in a hostel with someone for more than 3 days, you're probably going to be okay. So we banged out in New Zealand. Then later, she's like, hey, we can teach abroad. Kazakhstan. I'm like, where is Kazakhstan? Like, this is the early 2000s, so no one was whipping out a smartphone to do Google, but I was like, I've heard of Borat. Okay, what's the worst that can happen? We'll do a year in Kazakhstan. That turned into 2 years. I learned how to hitchhike and speak a little bit of Russian because that's how you get around in Kazakhstan. You flag down someone and you're like, oh, izvinichi, pожалуйста, I'll give you this much money. Drive me 2 miles down the road. It'll be fine. We bang that out. It's great. Then we get a job in Thailand. Oh, it's paradise. Great. I was in Thailand for 7 years. British school, American school. Both my kids were born there. Ended up learning how to drive on the left in Bangkok. Y'all thought Eagle Road was bad. Try getting into Bangkok in rush hour. You missed a turn? There's 2 hours of my life gone, evaporated. But we were like, you know what? Life's too easy in Thailand. Let's mix it up. And my wife's like, boom, job, Bosnia. Let's go do that thing. I'm like, all right. Most people are like, there was a war there and a lot of stuff blew up. Yes, that would be correct. That's Bosnia. Our house still had bullet holes left over from the whole Civil War thing. Turns out they're still upset about it. Yeah, I don't blame them for not fixing some of the bullet holes. That was great, though. Drove all the way across Europe and back twice in an orange Ford Fiesta. Turns out roads are way smaller in Europe. Like, I would never take a car I have in America and drive it in Europe. But you know what? I'm feeling good about myself. I'm like, there's nothing I can't do, right? I'm getting over my anxiety, I'm being brave, putting my big boy pants on. Terrified the whole time. I'm the worst person to travel with. I'm like on the CIA website for every new country. I'm like, honey, they have a pickpocket scam they do at the airports. Like, you gotta I'm so nervous about everything, but my whole life is just this freewheeling adventure, right? So eventually, we get a job offer, you know, kind of in the middle of the pandemic. You guys remember that thing, for West Africa. Now, it's our old boss from Thailand. This is a woman who like brought food to my house when my children were born. So I trust this woman, right? She's like, no, this is gonna be a great gig. But I got red flags going off in my head. You know, I'm like, all right, this is not one of the touristy Africa countries, you know? So I'm like, okay, but I'm like, I'm not gonna josh this up. I'm not gonna Google everything there is to be worried about and be worried about it. I'm like, we'll just go. It's not my first rodeo, it'll be fine. It was not fine. So we get off the plane, a couple of red flags, more AK-47s than I'm used to. I've seen a few, you know, I've been to like 60 different countries. I'm like, all right, that's okay, whatever, no big deal. We get to our neighborhood. I'm like, oh, that's like a 12-foot concrete wall with electrified barbed wire, except not on my house. They had not yet installed that on the compound where I was taking my 2 kids and my wife to go live. On top of that, my new boss had told me, don't worry about getting anti-malarial drugs. You won't need it. Not gonna be a big deal. Now, probably you guys haven't taken anti-malarials. They're not particularly fun to take, so there's a little bit of a side effect. Like, just don't worry about it. No big deal, be fine. Well, we're at our first staff meeting of the year. All the big wigs, you know, all the expats, you know, people that are not from this particular country in West Africa are doing the talking. And then finally we have a local lady come up to the mic, right? She comes up, she's the nurse, right? If you ever seen a school nurse, they are no BS, right? She's like, so the vice principal died last year of malaria. We're like, wait, what? We're like, all the hands are going up. All the teachers are like, I'm sorry, we were told not to worry about it. Like, no, that's why you have a new principal. You know, the lady that was like, come do this job, it'll be great, you'll love it. I was like, I could have brought medicine, but you're like, no, it's fine. I mean, one thing led to another, but a lot of people were like, are we gonna die? Which was a fair question to ask, and it should have been. And immediately, the year was off to a rocky start. My oldest child, my son, got dengue fever out the door, which, you know, my wife had gotten that in Thailand, so I'd seen that before. Another name for that one is bone break fever. I mean, that's what we thought it was, because this was during COVID. So I'm trying to take my son, my wife and I are trying to take my son to a hospital in West Africa during COVID. Now, we're not embassy, right? My wife and I are international teachers, so when you have those fancy diplomats that you see on CNN, we teach their kids. Now, they all have private doctors and security forces. We have none of that. We just teach their kids. So it's not good. Like, we're going to hospitals, and honestly, it's just bad. You're like 200 people lined down the hallway, and they speak French. My French is not great. Going to find a clinic to help my son with his fever of 105 was not great. We were able to find a tiny little clinic in an apartment where they would give him an IV drip. You know, long story short, he was okay, and he made it through. But the whole time I was panicking about my son, I did not realize that my wife was super sick, and she was just powering through everything to help take care of our son, because that's what moms do all the time, right? They never ask for anybody to pick up anything, and this was like my wife doing all of that. She'd probably gotten bitten by a mosquito and gotten malaria on day 1. What they tell you to do is you just don't go outside in the morning, and you just don't go outside at night. No big deal, right? Because that's when the mosquitoes that carry malaria come out. Well, she'd probably gotten bitten on the first staff dinner on the first day, because if you're not familiar with malaria, it takes like 2 weeks for the parasite to really ramp up in your system, and then by then, you're having a bad day. So at this point, I already know that the medical system is a train wreck. The embassy is like, you're on your own because, you're just a teacher. You're not part of the embassy staff. You just teach our kids. Okay, fair. So what do I do? What are you doing, right? My son's finally okay, but my wife is in so much pain she can barely move. Find a guy from Wisconsin in West Africa whose whole job is helping connect you with doctors who want to make a little extra cash. Thank you, Wisconsin. So I'm like, all right. All right, hey, Steve. What are you doing here? Oh, I married a local. Okay, all right. Steve, I need a doctor yesterday. Can you please send one to my house? He's like, no problem. Take care of it. So I'm expecting this doctor to show up at my house. Everything's going to be fine. No big deal. It's late at night. It's getting dark. I'm like, where is this doctor, right? Now, the doctor had given me a prescription for some pretty potent malarial medicines. Now, I'd gotten the over-the-counter stuff for malaria because it's West Africa. You can go to any pharmacy and get the over-the-counter stuff. That was not cutting it for my wife. She was in bad shape. She's like, get this prescription. So I'd gotten the drugs, waiting for the doctor. Where is he? Finally shows up. And it's maybe a 21-year-old part-time nursing medical student. I'm like, this doctor term's pretty loose. I see, okay, fair, whatever. All right, he's here. I'm like, that's great. Now, I don't speak French. So I'm like, all right, can we do the medicine? I'm doing the Google Translate. And through the Google Translate, I see, where are the hypodermic needles? And I'm like, bro, you're the doctor. I got the meds. I ain't got no hypodermic needles right now. Now it's 9:30 at night in this massive West African city. And almost all of the pharmacies closed by 10. And he's going to leave. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm like, just a second, Google Translate. We are going to go to the hospital. And we're going to go to the pharmacy. And we are going to get hypodermic needles. And you're going to get in the car with me. And we're going to go. And he says, okay. And so I've got this complete stranger. It's really this young man next to me in my beat-up old Honda CR-V, which I'd bought in from a previous teacher, which the muffler had fallen off the week before, but there were no mechanics there, so I'd literally taken a pie pan and some wire and hammered around the exhaust so that it didn't catch the car on fire and we'd all die in a ball of flames. But that's just a normal day in my new life right now. So we're driving through a city that is extremely dangerous in the daytime, and it's 9:45 at night. And you see things when you're driving through different cities that maybe you wouldn't see in Eagle or downtown Boise. There's a giant pile of garbage just on fire. Oh, they're cleaning out that abandoned building. Oh, that's cool. There's a minivan over there, and it's just a bunch of dudes with guns. I'm like, they're not army or cops. They're just a random paramilitary group. I'm like, okay, whatever, no big deal. There's the taxi driver gang of dudes that you just, whatever, they're fine. Just keep going. Go past those guys. And I'm like, finally, we get to the one pharmacy, French pharmacy, thank you, France, that's open until 10:15. Now, as you do in this particular part of the world, is you park your car and then you find the nearest person on the street to watch your car. I'm like, yeah, all right, here's about $10. Please make sure my car doesn't get stolen. We go in, we get the hypodermic needles, bing, bang, boom. They close the pharmacy. We get back in the car. We drive back home. My wife gets the shots she needs, and he comes back every day for a week, twice a day to give my wife what she needs. But I was terrified, obviously, the entire time, right? And that's the thing they don't tell you about being scared, right? It's really hard to be terrified for yourself. But if you have to be terrified for someone else, like your wife or your kids, super easy. I'm like, I could die, no big deal. Let's go. Let's do it. Whatever. It'll be fine. We'll work it out. And honestly, that year was a mess, right? It was not a great school environment. We sorted it out, and we were like, you know what? We don't want to go through this. We quit our jobs in the middle of the year. We took our kids, and we went back home, and we're like, that's enough adventure right now. But if I could go back, if I could change any of it, would I have said, no, let's not do that, and gone and met some other person? Absolutely not. I would have hated my life if I just stayed in what I wanted to do, because sometimes, what we want just isn't what we need. And I've had the most exciting, amazing run with this woman, and she's put up with me the entire time. And to be fair, you're not hearing this in the story. I am a huge pain to travel with. I'm not fun to travel with, but she still takes me everywhere we go. And we're very happily employed now. I teach out of my garage. It is the safest. I teach geopolitics and military history to middle schoolers from my green screen studio in the garage. I put on sweatpants and I go out to the garage, I open the door. It's a pretty easy commute. Life is good. We travel to a different country every year or two, because, you gotta get out there. You gotta get some adventure. But if I could go back and change anything, I absolutely would. So Tara, thank you for everything. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Josh, and thank you, Tara. I guess sometimes a lie results in good things. You can share that with your kids when you get home. Good parenting advice. Okay, let's end with a slammer. Bring us the slammer suitcase, please. One of the things that happens, I've noticed with storytellers that come to Story Night, is they turn their name into a verb. So that's a thing that happens. We had Joshed it up tonight. That's a thing, yeah, okay. All right, here we go. Let's see here. Take a few and tuggle them around, and okay. All right, let's go with Cynthia Nicole. You're next up. Thanks to everybody who entered their slammer ticket. We'll try and get you in next month. Change your story from fast forward to stop. It'll be easy.
So, it is June of 2012. I live in Bowling Green, Ohio. I'm working on my PhD, bartending. It's a college town, so it's pretty small. You can kind of walk everywhere. I live in a little apartment building with two of my friends who are also students, also bartend with me. It's a really cozy town. One day, I get a very strange letter in the mail. It didn't have a return address. It was postmarked from Toledo, so I knew that someone sent it locally, but didn't know who. I open it up, and the card is just this white cardstock, and someone has kind of scrawled on it in blue calligraphy marker. And they've made this really weird attempt at florid prose. And it's stuff like, "You're breathtaking. You're beyond words to script. You're forever what fuels my passion." It kind of goes on and on with this nonsense, and it's just signed YL at the end. Well, I don't know anyone with those initials, and I ask my friends, I post a picture of this card on Facebook, and nobody will cop to having sent me this card. And I'm super annoyed because I hate pranks, and I don't like being the butt of a joke, and I feel like this one's particularly creepy and stupid, so I'm pretty frustrated. 6 days pass, I get another bizarre card in the mail. Same postmark, same cardstock, same creepy blue calligraphy pen scrawl, and this person knows my full name and address, so I'm like, it's gotta be someone I know. But again, inside, it's more garbage like, "I wish you were mine. To me, I am yours. I have been yours. I wish I could tell you how much I love you and that you mean the world to me." And it goes on and on and on, and it's just signed "Your Love." Again, nobody I know will confess to having sent me this card, and I just kind of have to resign myself to frustratedly give up on solving this mystery. Sometimes we just have to live with uncertainty. Fast forward to January of 2018. At that point, I live in Boise. I'd been in Boise for about 4 years. And out of the blue one day, my buddy Tim, one of my pals from Ohio, shoots me a text message. And the text message says, "I think we might have finally found your secret admirer." And it's a link to a news story that just says, "Bowling Green man arrested for burglaries." So I'm like, huh? So I open up the news story, and it is about a guy that we know. He was a regular at the bar we worked at. Well, his brother was a regular, so he was there pretty often. I never saw this guy sober. He always just kind of would approach me with this glazed over eyes, and he would start these like aggressively obtuse conversations that I would just back away from because I had no idea what he was talking about. But I was shocked. This article said that he was 33, and I was sure this man was 10 years older than me, but apparently he was 3 years younger. Anyway, kept reading, and it turns out he had been arrested for criminal trespassing the year before. He was caught breaking into women's homes and stealing their undergarments. When the police executed a warrant on his home, they found bras, panties, personal items in the hundreds. They also found a journal that was him recording all the dates and activities of his break-ins. And on his devices, they found Google searches for the women that he was stalking, as well as recorded footage of them. He had pictures of himself in their homes. He had a map with pins on it and notations for different locations. And so one address had a staggering 65 enters marked on it. And one of the victims, it turns out, had been a worker at a bar that he frequented. Well, I was shook. Fortunately, this man is spending 16 years in prison at the moment, but I think my buddy Tim was right. I think that guy was YL. Because when I look back on it, I think he knew where I lived. He lived right next door to a friend of mine. That house was only 3 or 4 blocks away, and my apartment would have been directly on his walk home from the downtown bars. It was a street-facing first floor apartment. I could literally see the sidewalk from my couch and from my bedroom windows. So suffice to say, I have never been so relieved to be a really light sleeper and obsessive about locking my doors.
All right, Mr. Baldessari, cue the music. We're gonna leave you tonight with the image of flying toads, mountains of bras and underwear, and burning trash on the side of the road. Story Night is supported by public funding for the arts through the Idaho Commission on the Arts, the Idaho Legislature, and the National Endowment for the Arts. We also receive funding from the Boise City Department of Arts and History. Take your ticket to the Modern Hotel and Bar for 15% off your check, and they have drinks named after our shows. Remember, you can listen to podcasts from all our shows or see the flagship shows on our YouTube channel. We also have a radio show. It's Story Night on Stray Theater, which you can hear on the Sunday before our live show from 5:30 to 6 on Radio Boise. Some of these stories tonight will be on that show. Thank you to our crew, technical director, podcast, and video engineer, Stephen Baldessari. Thank you to All Around Cowboy. Thank you to our interpreters, LaVona Andrew and Sierra McIver. Thank you to our photographer, Christina Birkenbein. Thank you to our volunteers and our volunteer coordinator, Natalia DiGrosia. Thank you to our board of directors. Thank you to our story subscribers. Thank you to Jump and the crew here for hosting us. Join us next on March 26th, featuring music from the Boise Phil's Brass Quintet. And now, as I finally let you go, that theme will be Stop, by the way. Story night. Story, good night. Beginning, middle, now at the end. I'm gonna Jodi it up right here. This is how we do it. Authentic, inspiring, spontaneous. So thank you. You shared your stories and you really listened. I might have come here as a stranger, but now I'm leaving as a friend. It's too late to register for the race, sorry. And so the stories never end. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next month.